All right, when I say French wine, where does your mind go? Bordeaux, Burgundy? Yeah, probably. But what if I told you there's this massive, rugged, totally fascinating region right next door? We're talking about the Sud-Ouest, or Southwest France. It's a real hidden gem, and today we're going to pull back the curtain and see what makes it tick.
And that really is the big question, right? How can a place with a 2,000-year history of making wine still be flying under the radar? It's kind of like the indie darling of the French wine scene, always living in the shadow of its blockbuster neighbor, Bordeaux. So, what's the deal? Well, that's what we're diving into. We're going to explore this incredible mosaic of land and tradition that makes the Sud-Ouest so special. Okay, so to really understand what's in the glass, you got to understand its backstory. And believe me, it's a dramatic one. We're talking ancient roots, major setbacks, and this incredible comeback story that basically defines the character of these wines today. Just look at this timeline. It's a total roller coaster. It all kicks off with the Romans, planting the very first vines. Then you've got the monasteries in the Middle Ages, keeping the whole tradition alive. But then, bam, the 19th century hits, and this tiny bug, phylloxera, just wipes out everything. It was a catastrophe. But here's the cool part. Out of that disaster comes this quality revolution. It's like the winemakers said, okay, let's rediscover what makes our land special, and started this huge push to get the recognition they deserved. And you can literally see that story of resilience written right into the landscape itself. The Sud-Ouest isn't just one thing. It's this incredible, complex puzzle of different landscapes, what the French call terroirs. And it's all carved out by these huge forces, mountains, the ocean, and the very earth itself. So let's see how all those pieces fit together. So you've got this trio of heavy hitters shaping everything. First, you've got the Atlantic Ocean, which brings in all this humidity and keeps temperatures pretty mild. Then, down south, you have the massive Pyrenees Mountains, acting like a giant wall or a rain shadow. And finally, you have the Massif Central, which throws even more variety into the mix. This powerhouse trio is exactly why you get this wild patchwork of different microclimates, and why the wines can be so incredibly diverse from one spot to the next. But it's not just what's above ground. What's below is just as important. The soil is the foundation of everything. So take a look here. In a place like Cahors, you have these dense clay and limestone soils. They're amazing for holding moisture, which helps create these really powerful, structured red wines. But then you jump over to Jurançon, and it's all sandy and gravelly. That's perfect for drainage, which is exactly what you want for elegant, super aromatic white wines. It really shows you the dirt itself is calling the shots on what kind of wine you're going to get. Okay, so we've got the history, we've got the land. What's next? Well, now it's time to meet the stars of the show, the grapes. And these aren't your everyday grapes. These are what we call autochthonous heroes, a whole lineup of unique local varieties that give this region its one-of-a-kind personality. Think of this as our playbill. First up, we've got Tannat from Majoran. This grape is a beast. Seriously, it's famous for its super high tannins. But winemakers today have figured out how to tame it, and the results are these incredible, powerful reds. Next is Malbec. Now, you probably think of Argentina, right? But its OG home is right here in Cahors, where it makes these deep, dark, structured wines. For the whites, you have to know about Petit and Gros Manseng from Jurançon. They're just bursting with aroma. Think citrus, tropical fruits, honey. Amazing. And then there's Negrette from Fronton, which is totally unique. It's a lighter red that smells exactly like violets. How cool is that? So that word I used before, autochthonous, it sounds kind of complicated, but all it really means is that these grapes are native. They grew up right here. And this is so important. It's not just some trivia point, it's the heart and soul of the region. It means that when you drink these wines, you're getting a true taste of the Sud-Ouest, flavors you literally can't replicate anywhere else on Earth. All right, history? Check. Land? Check. Grapes? Check. Now we get to the really good part. Let's talk about what happens when you pour all that history and all that unique terroir into a glass. It's time to go tasting. So if we're painting with a broad brush here, what should you expect? The reds are generally big and bold. They've got this awesome rustic character. Think deep, dark fruit, but also these earthy, almost savory notes. These are definitely not wallflower wines. Then you have the whites, which are a whole different story. They are all about explosive aromatics and pure freshness. They're zippy, they're vibrant, with tons of floral and citrus notes that just wake up your palate.
And these wines, oh man, they were basically born to be paired with a local food. Let's talk about Confit de Canard. You know, that insanely delicious, rich duck that's been slow cooked in its own fat? Well, you need a wine that can stand up to that. Enter a bold Malbec from Cahors. Its tannins and acidity slice right through all that richness. It's like a reset button for your taste buds, getting you ready for the next perfect bite. It's a classic for a very good reason.
And then there's cassoulet, that legendary hearty stew packed with beans, sausage, all that good stuff. A dish like that would totally overpower a wimpy wine. You need something that can go toe-to-toe with it. And that's where a powerful Mataron, made from Tannat, comes in. It's got the muscle and the flavor to stand right up to the cassoulet, creating this perfect epic pairing.
So you can see this is a place with really deep roots. But don't think for a second that it's stuck in the past. Not at all. The Sudoeste is looking forward, figuring out how to blend all that incredible tradition with a vision for what's next. Now, it's not all easy. Like pretty much everywhere, they're dealing with challenges. Things like climate change and trying to get noticed in a super crowded wine market. But the opportunities, they are huge. By leaning into what makes them unique, those native grapes, a real push for sustainable farming, and welcoming visitors, the Sudoeste is showing the world that its authenticity is its superpower. And that kind of brings us to a final thought, doesn't it? We live in a world that's just full of famous names, big brands, the wines everyone already knows about. And there's nothing wrong with that. But a place like the Sudoeste, it's a reminder. It reminds us that sometimes the best discoveries, the real treasures, aren't the ones on every shelf. They're the ones you have to go out and find yourself.